All right. Anyway, we talked about strength a little bit. The one thing about strength you should know is, again, we talk about compressive strength. Concrete does have tensile strength, just doesn't have a whole lot of it. Okay. So generally, the stuff we're doing this time around in class, most of the stuff we do generally neglects tensile strength of concrete. It has a small amount, and again, generally we neglect it. When we talk about concrete, we've mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again. Workability. Okay? The workability of concrete's important. I mean, strength's important, of course. I mean, that's obvious why that's important. Workability is important because we can have strong concrete, but if we don't get concrete that's workable enough to be placed into the forms out there on the construction site, then it's not going to work. Okay? We've got to have it both strong, we've got to have it workable. Typically, we measure workability by a test that's referred to as the Slump test. Okay, this is an old type test, but it's a test that's still done. Even in the modern era, it's still done. The Slump test, basically, and we'll be doing this in lab, basically you use a truncated metal cone. Okay, it's 8 inches in diameter at the bottom, 4 inches in diameter at the top. You fill this cone up with concrete in 3 layers. You have a 5/8 inch diameter bullnose rod, and each layer you put in, you rod it 25 times. On the 3rd layer, you rod it 25 times. Again, the thing with the rodding is you're really only supposed to go through the layer that you're in. But the 3rd layer, you rod it, and then you screed it off so that it's level. And then you take between 3 and 7 seconds and you lift this cone up. Without the cone holding it in place, the concrete's going to slump down. You'll place the rod across the top of the cone and you'll measure using a yardstick, ruler, tape, whatever. You'll measure the distance from the underside of the rod to the average height of the pile of concrete. That distance is what's referred to as the slump. So again, in specifications, the reason we mention this is that you'll see in specifications slump will be specified. We'll say, hey, you got this mix, and we're specifying a slump between 3 and 5 inches, or 4 and 6 inches, or 1 and 3 inches, or whatever it might be. Okay? The more slump you have, the more fluid the concrete is. The smaller the slump is, the less fluid it is. Okay? But like I said, workability, you know, is important. I mean, you can have a really concrete that, you know, has all the great strength that you want out of it, but if you don't get it in to the forms, if you can't place it, then it's not really going to be too good for you. All right? Okay.